Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back. It's Friday, May 29th, and it is 10:32 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, I finished the first video and uploaded it. It's still processing, but it will be available shortly. And I'm going to pick right up from where I left off in that video with the next. We are trying to get caught up with the Q posts. So, and I am determined that I am not quitting tonight until we do. So I'm hoping that this next video will do it. And if I still have energy, I'll do a little short news video. We'll see how it goes. But let's get started. And we are on May 28th. We are going to cover May 28th and May 29th. So let's get started. And this says Japan ends coronavirus emergency with 850 deaths and no lockdown. How can that be? No lockdown? I mean, the way they made it sound was we were all going to die if they didn't lock us all down. Well, we're going to go out and take a look at that. And also it says USA versus Japan, reconcile, critical thinking, Q. Okay, so I clipped this out for us and it makes it a little bit quicker. All right, and it says Japan ends coronavirus emergency with 850 deaths and no lockdown. Japan's Prime Minister, Abe Shinzo, has announced the end of his state of emergency declaration for the novel coronavirus pandemic with just 851 deaths reported and without ever implementing a lockdown. So Japan didn't have to kill their economy in order to keep their people safe. I have decided to end the state of emergency across the nation, Abe said during a televised press conference on Monday. In just over a month and a half, we almost brought the infection situation under control. Abe cautioned that lifting the order did not mean that the novel virus was gone from Japan. Our battle against the virus will continue, he said, while urging the Japanese people to continue following stringent social distancing guidelines. As of Monday, the East Asian nation has reported 16,628 confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus. Of those infected, 13,612 have already recovered and 851 have died. Tokyo, the nation's capital with 14 million residents, was the hardest hit part of the country with more than 5,100 cases. On Monday, the city reported just 8 new infections. The spread of COVID-19 is changing from moment to moment, and it's challenging to predict confidently. However, Japan is to carefully consider how to ease its restrictions on the international travel partially and gradually while keeping while trying to contain COVID-19, the spokesperson explained in an email. So we go back up here, and yeah, Q says USA versus Japan, reconcile. So the U.S. shut the whole country down, and what is it? They're saying it's up to 100,000 dead, but of course, we know that's not the case. We know that they have inflated those numbers and all sorts of shenanigans, and also intentionally infected people by putting COVID-positive patients in nursing homes. So that is why the United States has so many cases. All right. Now, let's look at this. We are on drop 4337, May 28th. The most important COVID-19 statistic, 43% of U.S. deaths are from 0.6% of the population. Fascinating. Expanding on our last drop, USA versus Japan, apply this, and we're going to read that right now as Q is directing us to. 43% of COVID-19 deaths are in nursing homes and assisted living facilities, housing 0.6% of U.S. Americans are vigorously debating the merits of continuing to lock down the U.S. economy to prevent the spread of COVID-19. A single statistic may hold the key to resolving this debate: the astounding share of deaths occurring in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Nursing homes and assisted living facilities, the #1 COVID problem. Gee, I wonder why. 2.1 million Americans, representing 0.62% of the U.S. population, reside in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Nursing homes are residences for seniors needing help with activities of daily living, such as taking a shower or getting dressed, who also require 24/7 medical supervision. Assisted living facilities are designed for seniors who need help with activities of daily living, but don't require full-time on-site medical supervision. According to an analysis that Greg Gervin and I conducted for the Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity as of May 22nd, in the 39 states that currently report such figures, an astounding 43% of all COVID-19 deaths have taken place in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And I can assure you, those statistics are very similar for Canada. Almost all the deaths up here are in either nursing homes or assisted living facilities. So, coming back here, it says, let that sink in. 42% of all COVID-19 deaths are taking place in facilities that house 0.62% of the U.S. population. Nursing homes. Why did our nursing home population suffer a direct hit regarding COVID-19 deaths? New York and New Jersey governor orders push COVID-19 positive elderly nursing homes, USNS comfort capacity, hospital capacity. What other Democrat governors mandated same orders? Well, we know Michigan. Ask yourself a very simple question. Was it known, common sense, and early medical reports that the elderly community was the most at risk? Absolutely. Right from the start, they said that. Why would four Democrat governors, push COVID-19 infected patients into safe nursing homes? Ignorance is a choice. And we know that that is the last thing anybody would have done if they were really concerned with protecting the elderly. Because the nursing home was closed off, it was pretty easy to close it off from outside visitors and so forth. There's absolutely no need for it to have taken the toll that it did on the elderly. No reason at all. So, let's go on. Japan, and this from Lisa May Crowley, Japan had 851 deaths from population of 126.5 million. New York, New Jersey, Michigan, and California forced nursing homes to accept infected patients. Was well known COVID-19 was especially dangerous to elderly. This was premeditated mass murder to spike the death toll. Absolutely. And Sun Q2 says Democrat governors have blood on their hands. They are responsible for the murder of each elderly soul that died as a result of being forced into a nursing home while infected with COVID. This is exactly why POTUS sent the USNS Mercy and Comfort to Los Angeles and New York. POTUS called their bluff. There was plenty of space in the hospitals and on the ships to house and treat elderly and others with COVID, but the Dems wanted to create a narrative that COVID-19 was spreading faster than it was and resulting in more deaths. This is unconscionable. 42% of all COVID deaths occurred at facilities that house 0.62% of the population. Nursing homes. So these poor elderly people could have spent their retirement years enjoying their families and grandkids, but they were executed by these monsters. This is hard to fathom. It is hard to fathom. It's hard to fathom that anyone would do that. It's beyond me. When these people are not only stupid, they're evil, very, very evil. All right, and we're moving on now to the next, and we are on drop 4338. Moving steadily closer to the goal of being caught up with Q. All right, 43% of U.S. CV deaths are in nursing homes. CDC conflates remainder COVID-19 plus seasonal flu. So, expanding on last drop, USA versus Japan, apply 43% of 100% nursing home death. CDC conflates 34 to 50% to 57% of CV deaths. Data include pneumonia, influenza, average pneumonia influenza death per season. Why is the data constantly changing? Past. Sometimes a Wayback Machine can find many Easter eggs. CDC data, then versus now. Ignorance is a choice. Now, according to Lisa May Crowley, she says, without even looking at old data via the Wayback Machine, I have no doubt CDC is jacking up the numbers to drag this pandemic drag it out as long as possible. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you'll notice that the flu deaths have gone, this year, there have been the least amount of flu deaths in a very long time. And why do you think that is? Because they are marking flu deaths as CV. That's why. And SunQ2, Q saying check archive.org to find CDC hidden Easter egg showing the CDC changing statistics to cover their tracks regarding pneumonia deaths. They are trying to cover their lies regarding intermixing of CV deaths and pneumonia deaths. Absolutely they are. And let's come down here. We're on drop 4339 now. 4339. Michigan governor continues deadly CV nursing home policy. And look at this. This is a sign. I would presume it is somewhere in New York. Cuomo killed my mom. That's sad. That's really, really sad. But I have no doubt that it's true. Okay. And Q is asking us, at what point should this be reclassified as murder? At what point is ignorance, common sense, no longer a valid excuse? Ignorance isn't an excuse. Evil surrounds us. Boy, does it ever. Now, let's take a look at what Q is directing us to look at here. And no, Michigan Governor Whitmer will not be Biden's running mate. Is this the right one? I don't know. It's bad enough that Governor Andrew Cuomo, look, I need a new car. Not necessarily a new car, but, maybe even a good used one. But now, because I was looking, that's all I get now is cars. Anyway, it's bad enough that Governor Andrew Cuomo instituted the dangerous policy that forced nursing homes and long-term care facilities to accept COVID-positive patients against their will. It's bad enough that this policy appears to have led to the rampant spread of CV in New York nursing homes and tragically thousands of deaths in those facilities. Okay. I guess you have to be a member to continue, and of which I'm not, so I guess that's it. But I think we can surmise what they're talking about there. Let's go back to Q. So at what point should this be reclassified as murder? Well, it is murder. I don't know how you can classify it any other way. When you knowingly place a contaminated individual into the most vulnerable population, what do you think is going to happen? And a closed environment, those people can't get away from it. And, it goes up into the ventilation system and it's everywhere. And you've got people going into the room of the CV patient, coming out, going into the room of someone else, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, exactly what did happen. All right, now we are on drop 4340. New York governor, nursing homes have no right to reject CV patients. They have no right. Boy, that's not what Cuomo said, is it? But he's trying to cover his hinder parts because he knows that we all know. All right. So there is a link to an article here, and I have clicked it out to save us a little bit of time. And let's take a look at it. Nursing homes have no right to reject coronavirus patients, Cuomo says. New York's nursing homes weren't allowed to challenge a controversial order to admit patients with CV, Governor Andrew Cuomo said Thursday, even though it's been blamed for spreading the deadly disease among residents. They don't have a right to object. This is the rule, and that is the regulation, and they have to comply with that, Cuomo said during his daily briefing in Albany. And the regulation is common sense. If you can't provide adequate care, you can't have the patient in your facility, and that's your basic fiduciary obligation. I would say ethical obligation, and it's also your legal obligation. Cuomo said that if a nursing home can't properly quarantine and treat COVID-19 patients with separate staffers, it's required to move them to another facility or ask the State Department or Health to arrange a transfer. Now, when a person gets transferred, they lose a patient. They lose that revenue. I understand, but the relationship is, the contract is, you have this resident, you get paid, you must provide adequate care, he said. Health Commissioner Howard Zucker said during the briefing he was not aware that the DOH had received any transfer requests. Cuomo also defended his Wednesday remark that it's not our job to provide nursing homes with personal protective equipment, saying, "We have given them thousands and thousands of PPE. It's their primary responsibility, like it's a hospital's primary responsibility, and hospitals ran into problems, nursing homes ran into problems. This is a national story, right? Turn on the national news any given time and you have people saying we can't get enough PPE, right?" he added. All right, and Lisa Mae Crowley says, Cuomo, they don't have a right to object. That is the rule and that is the regulation, and they have to comply with that. Several articles, including CDC website, regarding how dangerous CV is for elderly as early as the 3rd of March. Now let's go up because I don't think we finished. Well, I know we didn't finish. So it says, okay, so we're here. At what point should this be declassified as murder? At what point is ignorance, common sense no longer a valid excuse? Evil surrounds us. Q. I guess I did read that. And we're moving on to the next. And we are on drop 4341. 4341. New Jersey governor, no patient with CV should be denied admission to post-acute care settings. And again, Q is asking the exact same question. At what point should this be reclassified as murder? At what point is ignorance or common sense no longer a valid excuse? Evil surrounds us. Now, let's look at this. The link that Q is directing us to. And it says, State of New Jersey, Department of Health. This is from Philip D. Murphy, Governor Sheila Y. Oliver, Lieutenant Governor. And it says, 2, nursing homes, and this is March 31st, 2020. Nursing homes and comprehensive rehabilitation hospital administrators, Director of Nursing and Hospital Discharge Planners. From Judith M. I can't pronounce that. Excuse me. Okay, on March 9th, 2020, Governor Philip D. Murphy issued Executive Order number 103 declaring a public health emergency in New Jersey as a result of the CV pandemic. In order to respond to the increase in positive cases, there is an urgent need to expand hospital capacity to be able to meet the demand for patients with CV requiring acute care. As a result, this directive is being issued to clarify expectations, post-acute care settings receiving patients, residents returning from hospitalization, and for accepting new admissions. And it says the New Jersey Department of Health directs hospital discharge planning staff and post-acute care facilities to carefully review this guidance with all staff directly involved in patient-resident admissions, transfers, and discharges. During this global health emergency, all post-acute care settings must comply with the expedited receipt of patients, residents discharging from hospitals. Patients, residents are deemed appropriate for discharge to the post-acute care setting upon a determination by the hospital physician or designee that the resident is medically stable for return. A rapid review of necessary resources to provide adequate, safe care in the post-acute care setting is imperative during this time. Hospital discharge planners must confirm to the post-acute care setting by telephone that the patient resident is medically stable for discharge. Comprehensive discharge instructions must be provided to the hospital prior to the transport of a patient resident to the post-acute care setting. No patient resident shall be denied readmission or admission to the post-acute care setting solely based on a confirmed diagnosis of CV. Persons under investigation for CV who have undergone testing in the hospital shall not be discharged until results are available. Post-acute care facilities are prohibited from requiring a hospitalized patient resident who is determined medically stable to be tested for CV prior to admission or readmission. Information for healthcare providers on CV is available on the New Jersey Department of Health website. Now, so this makes it very clear that the nursing homes could not deny admission to CV positive patients. They could not, regardless of what they'd like to they're trying to rework the narrative that, oh, well, they could have, it's their fault. If they couldn't properly care for them, then they should have let us know. But here, they didn't have that option, did they? Nope, they didn't. Okay, let's go back. All right, and Lisa Mae Crowley says, can't help but think this virus was intentionally created to attack weakened respiratory systems of elderly, more of whom are likely Trump voters. Decline in pneumonia deaths not likely, lumped in with CV deaths, dubbed by some as boomer remover. And we know that older people are probably the most conservative. They are. That's just a fact. Not all elderly are conservative, but a good number of them are. So was this trying to, get rid of some of those voters, or is there another reason? Probably a multitude of reasons. Okay, and here we are on drop 4342. Pennsylvania governor, nursing care facilities must accept patients, including those who have CV. And we're going to go out and look at that in 1 second. And Q is asking the same question. At what point should this be reclassified as murder? At what point is ignorance, common sense, no longer valid? Evil surrounds us. So let's go take a look at this. This is Pennsylvania. Okay, Gary Cantrell, Deputy Inspector General, Office of Investigations, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Dear Deputy Inspector General Cantrell, I respectfully request that the HHS Office of Investigations immediately commences an independent investigation into whether the Pennsylvania Department of Health interim guidance for nursing facilities during CV March 18th, 2020 has contributed to an increase of CV infections and deaths in Pennsylvania nursing homes, assisted living, and elder care. The urgency of this request cannot be understated, as Pennsylvania has made clear that the interim guidance will remain in place even as other states repeal or revise similar policies in response to the inordinate number of deaths in these facilities. Instead of fairly and impartially assessing the impact of this guidance on the high number of deaths, the Governor Wolf announced a criminal investigation into the facilities themselves. His breathtaking failure to protect the most vulnerable population in Pennsylvania warrants an independent investigation. I implore you to begin such an investigation immediately. On March 18, 2020, Pennsylvania Department of Health published the interim guidance stating nursing care facilities must continue to accept new admissions and receive readmissions for current residents who have been discharged from the hospital who are stable to alleviate the increasing burden in the acute care settings. This may include stable patients who have had CV. All right. The medical community quickly condemned this guidance as dangerous to the residents of these facilities. The American Healthcare Association denounced the guidance and correctly stated that it will result in more people going to the hospital and more deaths. Unfortunately, AHCA's prediction has come to fruition. Since April 16th, when the Commonwealth began releasing specific data specific to nursing homes, personal care homes, and assisted living facilities, infections within these facilities increased over 3 times the rate as those elsewhere, all the numbers of cases rising more than 238%, the tragic loss of more than 2,600 older Pennsylvanians, nearly 70% of all CV deaths in the Commonwealth, continues unabated. More concerning, this trend appears to be worsening as in-facility deaths have accounted for 74% of deaths since May 1st. While all other states repealed similar policies in light of the widespread death, Governor Wolf has allowed the suffering to continue. Attempts to bring transparency to the deteriorating situation in these facilities has been met with overt hostility from his administration as it continues to keep Pennsylvanians in the dark. On May 12th, the Pennsylvania Attorney General announced a criminal investigation into nursing home facilities in the Commonwealth with regards to the death of residents. This development is particularly concerning due to its potential chilling effect on the willingness of facility operators and employees to speak out about the role of the Pennsylvania Department of Health's interim guidance in the spread of CV infections and deaths. The threat of criminal prosecution alone may be enough to ensure silence about the Commonwealth's role in this tragedy. The blatant attempt to obfuscate the governor's contribution to these deaths through intimidation is despicable and unjust. These developments warrant an outside investigation. And it goes on. I think we've got the gist of it there. So, yeah. All right. And let's go back. And Lisa May says Representative Scott Perry called for a federal investigation into Governor Tom Wolf's administration, alleging it failed to adequately protect nursing home residents during the CV pandemic. And Sun Q2. Q posted several articles from New York, New Jersey, Michigan, showing that governors of these states forced elderly into nursing homes by forcing nursing homes to accept patients with CV. Do you understand how evil this is? These are the same types of people who slaughtered 6 million Jews. Yes, they are. And we are on drop 4343. Compare, contrast USA versus Japan, total population, density, lockdown status, and CV deaths. USA, total population, 328 million. CV deaths, 100,000. And that's with a lockdown. Japan, total population, 126 million, condensed island. And that's roughly, a little more than a third of the US population. CV deaths, 850 with no lockdown. And Q says 2 plus 2 equals 5. Now, Lisa May says the numbers say it all. My question is, when federal government puts a stop, when will federal government put a stop to this? We see Dems intentionally murdering senior citizens in nursing homes. We see all the unconstitutional edicts from these tyrants. We know why they are doing it. Enough is enough. I am certainly glad that neither of my parents are in a nursing home. I would be horrified and I would be pulling them out. Well, I don't have the authority over my stepfather. He's got 2 daughters of his own that would do that, but I most certainly would do that for my mother. Definitely. Now, we are on drop 4344. 4344. 81% of Minnesota CV deaths are from nursing homes. All right, and we've got a link here, and it says the truth is right in front of you. Yes, it is. So let's take a look at this. We are drawing to a close here. Well, we're nearing. We still got a few to go. 81% of Minnesota CV deaths are from nursing homes, but facilities still allowed to admit positive patients. This is unbelievable. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat, continues to allow nursing homes to admit CV positive patients, even though nursing home residents make up 81% of all CV deaths in the state. No state has a higher percentage of CV deaths from nursing home residents than Minnesota. State health officials and long-term care industry representatives have defended the practice of discharging some CV patients to nursing homes, saying it is part of a broader strategy to conserve critical hospital beds during the pandemic. Long-term care facilities can provide treatment for CV patients who still need care, but have stabilized enough that they no longer require hospitalizations. And with so many empty hospital beds, what's the problem? Why do you need to put them in with the most vulnerable population? It's a good question, isn't it? So far, 11 facilities statewide have been designated as CV support sites with separate units or wings to handle CV patients. These specialty sites have gone through a vetting process by the state to ensure they have adequate staffing, supplies, and infection control standards. However, other nursing homes have been allowed to admit CV patients under private arrangement with hospitals. The practice is widespread. The State Department of Health has reviewed the cases of about half the patients hospitalized for CV statewide. The agency found that 27%, or about 268 patients, were discharged to long-term care facilities since the pandemic began. It just takes one of those, just one, in a nursing home to infect the whole home. So the Minnesota Department of Health reports that as of Thursday, 663 or 81.9% out of 809 total CV deaths in the state were patients who became infected with CV while residing in long-term care or assisted living facilities. According to data compiled by Henry J. Kaiser Family Foundation, Minnesota has the highest percent of CV deaths from nursing home patients of any of the 36 states that report that data. In fact, Minnesota's 81.9% is 40% higher than the 41% average in those 36 states for CV deaths from nursing home patients. So I think that's enough of that. I'm not going to continue to read that, but let's go back and Q is saying the truth is right in front of us, and it is. Lisa May Crowley says Minnesota Governor Tim Walz continues to allow nursing homes to admit CV positive patients, even though nursing home residents make up 81% of all CV deaths in the states. In that state, rather. Now, common sense would dictate you don't do that. So why did they allow it? Why are they continuing to allow it? That's what I'd like to know. Now, Sun Q2 says 80% of COVID-19 deaths in Minnesota are patients who were located in a nursing home. They are murdering the elderly. The death rate in Japan tells the story. What is the actual CV death rate in the US, I wonder? I have a feeling it's less than 20K and would actually be under 5K, but for the Democrat governors putting these poor elderly souls in nursing homes. Yes, I agree. Now, we are on drop 4345. Doctor talking about the safety of the drug and how it only became controversial after POTUS tweet. That's the truth. And Q says information warfare. All right, let's take a look at this link. All right, hang on here.
Hydroxychloroquine is not a controversial Hydroxychloroquine is not a controversial drug. I know that your listeners will find that hard to believe because all they've heard about it is controversy. It's not a controversial drug. It's been FDA approved for 65 years. We give it to pregnant women. We give it to breastfeeding women. There are patients who take it for decades. In fact, the typical use of Plaquenil, hydroxychloroquine, is for decades. This is not a controversial drug. And it wasn't controversial to me until the day after the president said it and the press went very ballistic over it. I really can't understand it to this day.
The experts are wrong. Hydroxychloroquine, when used early and combined with zinc, is an effective treatment, and that's why thousands and thousands of physicians around the country and around the world are using it and taking it themselves.
I don't love to talk about hydroxychloroquine so much because it's become such a political hot potato. But one of the reasons, or maybe the main reason I started down this path, was the resistance I got when I prescribed hydroxychloroquine. You know, for me as a doctor, I'm there really only for the patient. It's not a two-way street. I'm there for the patient. So when I had to prescribe hydroxychloroquine to a couple of patients, I did it. And the next day, I got tremendous pushback. I was stunned. What's really disturbing about this? We got a letter, every California physician got a letter from the California State Medical Board essentially threatening us if we prescribe this medicine. It's very carefully worded. I'm happy to send you an email copy. But it says we have to be cautious about prescribing this. It could be construed as unprofessional conduct. That's enough to stop a doctor from being honest and truthful with the patient about what they need.
This is all media-driven. If you watch the news, you get scared. If you live a normal life, you are not scared. The media and the Democratic Party is to have government control over your life. They don't deny it. This is a freedom issue.
Don't take the media and government control and mandates. Understand the Constitution. Like, start there. Understand the Constitution. Understand how the...
All right. Nothing we don't know. We are well aware of everything that she stated, that doctor stated. And Lisa Mae Crowley says doctors, or Democrats rather, for example, Pelosi and de Blasio, encouraging people to get out and mingle in crowds in February to infect more people while they're on the drug. Dems forcing infected patients in nursing homes and ordering doctors to not prescribe the drug is more than information war. It's murder. And it is out and out murder. And now we are on drop 4346. Trump signed social media executive order that calls for removal of liability protections over censoring. And it says, Jack, you were warned, Q, and of course that's Jack Dorsey, the owner of, I think he is the owner, the top, the very head of Twitter. All right, now let's look at this executive order. Trump signed social media executive order, hang on here, that calls for removal of liability protections over censoring. And this was very good news as far as I was concerned. Flanked by Attorney General Bill Barr, President Trump signed an executive order in the Oval Office on Thursday that interprets Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996, CDA, as not providing statutory liability protections for tech companies that engage in censorship and political conduct. The president's order, which also cuts federal funding for social media platforms that censor users' political views, came just 2 days after Twitter took the unprecedented step of slapping a misleading warning label on 2 of Trump's tweets concerning the fraud risks of nationwide mail-in balloting. The move immediately backfired. Experts disputed that Trump's tweet was actually misleading, in part because mail-in balloting has been linked to ongoing fraud. Twitter's fact-checked itself contained false statements, and Twitter failed to apply the standard of review to other users. At Thursday's signing ceremony, Trump called the fact check egregious and held up a photo of Twitter executive Yoel Roth, who heads up the site's fact-checking and rule-making operation. Fox News reported on Wednesday that Roth has mocked Trump supporters, calling Trump's team actual Nazis, slammed scary trannies in New York City, and called GOP Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell a bag of farts. In a statement, Twitter did not dispute Fox News reporting, but called it unfortunate. Yeah. My executive order calls for new regulations under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act to make it so that social media companies that engage in censoring any political conduct will not be able to keep their liability shield, the president said. And he added, my executive order further instructs the Federal Trade Commission to prohibit social media companies from engaging in any deceptive acts or practices affecting commerce. The commerce resides in Section 5 of the Federal Trade Commissions Act. Additionally, I'm directing the Attorney General to work cooperatively with the states to enforce their own laws against such deceptive business practices. The states have broad and powerful authority to regulate in this arena. Excuse me. But the thing is, right after he signed that, Twitter slapped, when he said about the rioting in Minnesota, and he was saying, that he was sending in was it the Army or the National Guard? And he said, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, and they slapped, I think they either removed it or they slapped a warning on it that it was violent or whatever, but I believe they removed it. So Twitter is still continuing with their nonsense. So let's go back now, because we covered this actually in my video, not yesterday, but the day before. We covered that just in the news. So let's go on here and down here. Oh, and it says, Jack, you were warned. Q. I love that. I guess I already read that, but hey, I read it again because I like it so much. And these are from, this is from an anon from March 9th, 2018. Q, are we going to have more freedom of speech on private public speech services or not? Please answer this question. And March 9th, 2018, Q responds and says, 100% regulated. Some platforms will collapse under own weight of illegal activities. And really what is happening on Twitter and all social media really is, it's unbelievable that it's happening in a country that is supposed to be free, because really we are entering the territory of China now in the level of censorship that is occurring. Okay, and let's go on now. We are on drop 4347, October 25th, 2019 tweet. Did Biden have foreknowledge of CV pandemic? Coincidence or foreknowledge? And this is in regards to this tweet, October 25th, 2019. We are not prepared for a pandemic. Trump has rolled back progress President Obama and I made to strengthen global health security. We need leadership that builds public trust, focuses on real threats, and mobilizes the world to stop outbreaks before they reach our shore. And that was in response to the Washington Post. None of these 195 countries, the US included, is fully prepared for a pandemic. Interesting that he would say such a thing, that we are not prepared for a pandemic. Trump has rolled back progress. He was already in October 25th, 2019, setting the stage for a pandemic occurring and blaming Trump. Interesting. And disgusting. And we are now, woohoo, on the 29th of May. So we are now getting to the drops from today. Yay! Okay, we are on drop 4348, and Q provides us with a link, and yeah. This is kind of weird. First of all, we have this. Q provided this. The internet has connected us in ways unimaginable, but the QAnon community, united in the belief that the world is run by a criminal elite, shows the danger of that power. Listen to Rabbit Hole with Kevin Roose. 7. Where we go 1. QAnon believers united in a battle against what they see as dark forces of the world reveal where the internet is headed. And that is by the New York Times. Then we have this little piece of weirdness. Inside the first church of QAnon, where Jesus helps fight the deep state. QAnon has its first church where Jesus is aligned against the Democrats. And I would like to just state that Jesus is neither Democrat or Republican. He is on the side of truth, wherever that be found. Now, we are not a cult. We're not conspiracy theorists. We're conspiracy analysts, announces QAnon researcher Kevin Bushy in a YouTube video after discussing a recent Q drop about the mainstream media expending ammo, writing about QAnon's growth. Specifically, Bushy tied the drop to the burgeoning popularity of a QAnon church, one that holds weekly services on YouTube that blends Q mythology with biblical theology. Now, I don't agree with that. If that's the case, if there is a church that's doing that, that is absolutely ludicrous. None of Bushy's analysis of Q is out of the norm for Q researchers, except one thing. Bushy is part of that same YouTube-based QAnon church called Omega Kingdom Ministries, and his interpretation was being presented in one of their services. Since its first 4chan post in 2017, the QAnon conspiracy theory has become a movement encompassing everything from commerce to politics, and increasingly this includes religion, as QAnon believers infuse their complex mythos with elements of spiritual warfare and biblical theology. But some Christian QAnon followers are taking this merger even further, using the text of Q drops as scripture to form what seems like a hybrid Q Christian denomination. That's sick. And it might be the future of QAnon. Scriptural context isn't new to the Q conspiracy theory. The mysterious Q drops posted on various message boards often quote various Bible verses and make frequent references to God winning. Q is especially fond of reposting Ephesians 6:10-18, including passages about the armor of God and the sword of the Spirit. They seem apt for a movement based around the violent removal of its enemies. But until now, this mix of spiritual and conspiratorial has only been one aspect of Q belief, not the foundation for an actual religious movement. Then came Omega Kingdom Ministries and its fusion of Protestantism and QAnon. It has no official doctrine, ordained clergy, or a building in which to gather. It doesn't even consider itself a church. But this model of public services broadcast on YouTube might serve as a more palatable and acceptable new direction for a movement that struggles to break out of its perception as a violent prophecy cult full of racists and lunatics. Each online service is led by two pastors, Indiana-based former professional clergy turned home church trainer Russ Wagner, and Kevin Bushy, a retired Army colonel who has made multiple runs for the Maine House of Representatives, including one still in progress. Wagner handles most of the traditional Bible-based aspects of the surface, while Bushy spends nearly an hour every Sunday morning deciphering QAnon drops, Twitter threads, memes, and updating viewers on military operations. When put together, it gives the distinct feeling that you're being given a pep talk for an all-digital crusade that will eventually involve you putting an infidel to the meme sword. If none of that sounds like anything in a traditional Christian church service, it's because OKM is not aligned with any denomination of Christianity. Instead, it's an ecclesia, an ancient Greek term that denotes a home congregation, but also means those who see themselves as called out from the great mass of believers. Those believers have never met in person, instead congregating first in private over Zoom, then recently going public on YouTube. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of this, but I guess you get the drift of where they're going here. It's a long article, and I have no intention of reading it all. So, wow, it's a really, really long article. Yeah, well, we'd be here all night reading that. All right. Okay, let's go back. All right, and Q says, fear, panic, loss of narrative control. You are the news now. Q. And yeah, I mean, I don't agree with what that church is doing. I don't, but hey, you know, why is the media so concerned about it? You know, I mean, there's always been strange offshoots of whatever. All right, now we are almost done, and that is good news. All right, so drop 4349, and it says, this is a picture of George Soros, and destroying America will be the culmination of my life's work. Can you imagine? Well, Soros, I believe that you will pass on before that happens. And beneath it, Q says, nobody escapes this. Q, not even George Soros. And let's look at this. I think this is the second to last post we have, and it is just a link to this. DNI Ratcliffe issues statement on declassification of transcripts. As I stated throughout the confirmation process, transparency is vital to allowing the American people to have confidence in the intelligence community. As the Director of National Intelligence, it is my obligation to review classification requests with the overarching priority of protecting sources and methods, while also providing transparency whenever possible. Accordingly, today, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence declassified the transcripts concerning Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, John Ratcliffe, Director of National Intelligence. So, and there's more to come. There's lots more to come. Now, this is the last drop for today, and it is the last Q drop, so this will catch us completely up, believe it or not. And Q says, worth watching Catherine Heritage for D-class designations. So all he is telling, he's directing us to follow Catherine Heritage on Twitter, and it says worth following D-class designations, Q. And this is who he's talking about. So if you're on Twitter, perhaps, and I'm going to go ahead and follow now. And if you're on Twitter, this is who he is telling you to follow. And if you don't have Twitter, then I will be following it for you and will inform you of anything that I see there that is newsworthy. So, she does have a lot of good stuff here. Flynn, side by side, 2017, Washington Post report on Flynn, Kislyak. So she's got a lot of good information here, a lot. So that's what I would direct you to do. And if it wasn't so late, I would go through these but it is late, and I really would like to get caught up on some of the news, especially the protests that are happening around the nation, and even now. So I do want to cover that, and I don't know if I have it in me to do another video tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and get this uploaded and then see how I feel and see how my voice is doing. So far, it's been doing all right. So I might be okay to do another short video, but I can't promise you. So I'm going to go ahead and get this uploaded and get it ready to be uploaded, and I'll see then. But if I don't come back and do another video tonight, you can count on the fact that I will be covering the news tomorrow, including the protests and what is going on in Minnesota, and possibly the real story behind this. Because don't believe everything you're seeing. Don't believe it. Now, the rioting, that's real. The burning, it's real. The smashed, the ransacked Walmart, or not Walmart, it was a Target, and a lot. I mean, there are city blocks that look like they've been burned to the ground. And so we'll be covering that tomorrow. I wish I could cover it tonight, but I don't think I could do it justice tonight. So if I do come back and do a video, it'll be like a little tiny short one. But tomorrow I'm planning on covering the news. So that's it. And look at this little guy behind me. Isn't he cute? He's feeling so much better after his surgery. He's just back to his normal self. He limps just a little bit, but the vet said that that would go away, and that she promised me that in a year or so I would not even remember which leg he had surgery on, because he would be walking perfectly normal. But I think I'll remember. So yeah, he's a cute little guy. Xander, do you want to say hello? Hey, Xander. Xander, would you like to say hello? Oh, you don't want it. You don't want to look at the camera. Okay, well, I can't force him. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to all you longtime listeners and my newfound listeners, which, it's growing slowly, but it's growing. So thank you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good night. Stay safe, stay well. And please keep seeking truth, because the truth will set you free. Good night.